The easiest way to transfer Pokemon into Pokemon Champions, I'm explaining it to you in this video, specifically how you're going to use Pokemon Go to transfer Pokemon into Pokemon Champions. I'm going to give you a full step-by-step guide on how to do that starting now. To get Pokemon into Pokemon Champions from Pokemon Go, of course, there's going to be three very simple steps that you need to start off with. Number one, you need to have your phone or any device that you can download Pokemon Go on, and of course, have a Pokemon Go account. So for me, right, of course, I have my Pokemon Go account here. I'm a level 80. I have a lot of Pokemon caught. This is like my main Pokemon game, right? So you just need to have this application on your phone. And before you put your phone down, you are also going to need to download the mobile version of Pokemon Home. Now, for demonstration purposes, I uninstalled it from my phone just so you guys can get like, I guess, like the full how it would look if you still don't have the Pokemon Home mobile app. Chances are maybe you do, maybe you don't, but just in case you don't, you want to download it and then you're gonna open it. Now, if you're watching this, of course, it's because you want Pokemon into Pokemon Champions, which means that you already have a Switch, which means that you already have a Nintendo account. So that's gonna be, of course, the first step is have a Nintendo account, because you're of course gonna need to log in into Pokemon Home with your Nintendo account. All right, so after putting your information in, then you agree to the terms of use and services. You just have to agree to a couple of things here. You can just put not to track because it doesn't really matter. So here's where you need to actually do it. So you're going to press link your account. Of course, if you don't link your account, then there's going to be no way for you to actually send the Pokemon. So if you already know what account you're going to use, of course, you're going to press yes, I am sure and would like to link. If not, you can do check now Nintendo Switch, check information registered for a Nintendo account if you're not sure. But for me, I'm sure and would like to link. If you have a Switch, you probably already know what your Nintendo account login is. It's going to take you to this website, and this is where you're going to put in your login. So I'm going to do that really quick. Of course, I'm not going to show you guys that part, but it's asking me to put in a two-step verification code. All right, so once you verify that, now you are back into Pokemon Home. It's gonna, whatever you say, would you like to link the Nintendo Switch version, right? So I already also have Pokemon Home installed on my Switch. That's gonna be, the next part. Once you go to the Switch, of course, you need to have the Pokemon Home app installed on your Switch, and it's gonna be the exact same process. You need to make sure that you are logged in to the same Nintendo account, because of course you need to have the same account on both to see the Pokemon on both. Chances are you'll have to download some resources, download some data. It didn't take that long. Maybe if it's your first time downloading, it'll take you like a minute or two. I believe one time it took me quite a while, but for the most part, it's a pretty fast process. All right, boom. So now you're into Pokemon Home on your phone. Once you're logged in, you don't need to do anything now. You can close out of this and then you can actually go back to Pokemon Go. Now in Pokemon Go, you're actually going to press on this little Pokeball in the bottom middle of your screen. And then in the top right, you're going to see that there's a settings button. You're going to press on there, and then it's going to say connected devices and services. Tap on that, and you're going to tap on the middle option that says Pokemon Home. Same thing here. You're going to have to sign in with Nintendo. Here, it's going to be the exact same thing that you just logged in with. I just pressed confirm for it to log me in. Now it's floating. It's going to take a little bit as well. And boom, you see I'm connected. My player name is there. It's the exact same one. And then you can see there's a button that says send Pokemon. This is where you're going to be able to send your Pokemon to Pokemon Home. Now, before you actually send Pokemon from Pokemon Go into Home, there's a couple of things that you need to understand of how exactly it functions, and what there are certain Pokemon that you can send and there are certain Pokemon that you cannot send. So number one, the most important thing is that the transfer is one way. Pokemon Go is one of the few. The only thing you can do is send Pokemon out of Pokemon Go, but you cannot send them back. So if you're gonna send a Pokemon away from Go, you will never ever be able to bring that Pokemon back into Go. The only way to have Pokemon in Pokemon Go is if you caught it in Pokemon Go. So if I'm you, if I have like a perfect IV in Pokemon Go, like let's say I have like this perfect Primal Kyogre, I'm never going to transfer this away from Pokemon Go because I'll never be able to bring it back. Number two, there's a class of Pokemon that cannot be transferred. So this Pokemon include Spinda for whatever reason, Pokemon that you have favorited. So none of these that have like the little star on the top right. Buddy Pokemon, you can set a Pokemon like as your buddy. I have this Primarina. It's actually a best buddy. You cannot transfer away buddy Pokemon. You cannot transfer away Pokemon defending gyms. So if you put a Pokemon in a gym, if you don't know what I'm talking about, then the chances are you don't have a Pokemon in a gym. But if you do have a Pokemon in a gym, then you have to wait for somebody to knock it out and for it to be back like in your Pokemon storage before you can actually send it away. You also can't send costume Pokemon. So in Pokemon Go, there's like costume Pokemon, like there's this little Dragonite with a bow and glasses, and then like there's Beware with the cape, and none of these can be sent away from Pokemon Go. You also can't transfer away Pokemon that are currently Mega Evolved. So like this Primal Kyogre, I can't send it. If I were to Mega Evolve this Rayquaza, I wouldn't be able to send it while it's Mega Evolved. If it's not Mega Evolved, then I would be able to. And you also cannot send away Shadow Pokemon. In order to send, if there's a Shadow Pokemon you have, like maybe you have a Shadow Shiny Pokemon. So for example, I have a pretty good amount. So let's say I wanted to like send this Shadow Shiny Chespin to Pokemon Home. I would need to purify it first before actually sending it to Pokemon Home. If you don't care about having shadows in Pokemon Go and you have like a shadow of something that you want, you might just purify it and then send it. There's also another tier of Pokemon in Pokemon Go called Lucky Pokemon that you get from certain types of lucky trades. So if you have a lucky Pokemon or a purified Pokemon, you can send those to Pokemon Home, but they do kind of lose that status in Pokemon Home because that's just not a thing anywhere else. So if a Pokemon is lucky or purified in Go and you send it to Pokemon Home, it'll just become like a normal Pokemon again. Now, moving on to actually sending the Pokemon, if you go back to the connected devices Pokemon Home, and then we actually press on the button that says send Pokemon, you can see that there's something called the Go Transporter, and there's something called the Go Transporter Energy. And mine's actually not fully charged. I think this is a pretty good kind of baseline so you guys can see how kind of works. 3 days, 15 hours until charge. Now, I believe I sent a shiny Rayquaza from Pokemon Go like 2 days ago to Pokemon Home. You guys will see it right now when I show you my home. And it actually used the entire, meter of energy. So if you have the full energy and you transfer like a shiny legendary, it's going to be the whole meter. So that takes into the next thing. Different Pokemon are going to cost different levels of energy. And just for the sake of filling up my transporter all the way to the max, I'm actually going to use coins to charge it fully. Now, I don't recommend you ever do this unless you really need to send a bunch of Pokemon from Go to Home. I don't recommend you like spend Pokecoins. 526 Pokecoins, this is going to be equivalent to about $5 US. And so what we do know is that the Go Transporter holds a maximum of 10,000 energy. So the full thing is 10,000 energy. So I suppose that the Rayquaza takes 10,000 shiny Rayquaza takes 10,000 transporter energy, and it recharges at 60 energy per hour. So that means that a full recharge takes just under 7 days. So actually, it's probably been like 3 days since I sent the Rayquaza, right? So I'll actually show you what that looks like. So I'm going to charge it. I'm going to use about $5 of coins. Oh, it actually gave me an error because it costs less now. So you guys can see it costs $6 less or 6 coins less from the time that I put it. So if I put this regular Groudon, you see how little energy it actually takes. It's going to take very, very little energy. You guys can see how it turns red. Red is how much energy is being used. Blue is how much energy I have. So like you guys saw, if I tap on the shiny Reshiram, it fully goes red. So it uses all 10,000 energy for a shiny legendary. Actually, I want to see how much would it cost if I wanted it to transfer a shiny mythical. The same exact thing. So anything that's like mythical and shiny or legendary or even an ultra beast, Pokemon of this rarity are going to cost the full thing. But the non-shiny, I think it costs, the shiny itself makes it cost a lot more. So you guys can see like a shiny Salamence isn't going to cost that much. And then I could send another Metagross, another Metagross, 3 Metagross, 4 Metagross. The regular Groudon's non-shiny, I could send like a good amount of regular non-shiny legendary. Sorry. Same thing with, mythicals. That one costs quite a bit. And then, you got a pseudo legendary like Garchomp. This is going to start to take very, very little energy. But if I were to actually use a shiny, all right, there we go. So if I were to press on this, you see how much more energy it actually costs to send the shiny Garchomp than a regular Garchomp. So I'm actually going to use this opportunity to transfer some Pokemon from Go into champions that I actually want to use. And that's going to be the shiny starters, Fennekin, Croaky, and Totodile, just so I can get their megas shiny. So you guys can see I have a lot of shiny of these, and the reason why these are pretty common shinies because in Pokemon Go there's something called community days, which on the weekend for 3 hours the only Pokemon that spawns in the wild is whatever is the featured Pokemon for that community day. So most recently I believe we had Scorbunny community day, so we had a lot of Scorbunnies. Actually, if I show you how many shiny Scorbunnies I have, I'm gonna have a lot of shiny Scorbunnies as well. Next weekend is actually Tinkatink community day, so I know Tinkaton is pretty decent for VGC. But if you want to get a shiny Tinkaton, it's actually going to be on April 11th from 2 to 5 p.m. and it's very, very easy to actually catch a shiny during community days. Every encounter has a 1 in 25 shiny odds, so very, very easy to catch. If you want to just catch one shiny, or if you want to like catch 3 for the whole family, that's a different story. But it's very, very easy to catch a shiny during community days. That's why I have so many of these. They also have been featured during events. There's certain events where there's like shiny boosts for every encounter. So I have a good amount of these where I don't even mind getting rid of some of them. So I guess another thing that I want to do before I actually send them is I actually want to evolve them so I don't have to worry about evolution later down the line. And I actually have this pretty cool Halloween costume shiny Froakie with like a little witch hat. Not the greatest IVs, but I'm going to use this shiny Fennekin, which absolutely sucks and I don't care about. I'm going to evolve it all the way up to Delphox. Same thing for Alligator and Greninja. Well, there we have Delphox. I think what's funny is that this Totodile, these are actually going to be shiny dex entries for me. I've never evolved a shiny Totodile before. Yay, shiny dex entry. All right, and there we have Alligator for the first time ever in Pokemon Go. Kind of surprising for me. Boom. There we go. Now we have all 3. So we're going to go back into the transporter and send them. Now, another thing that we should note really quickly before actually finalizing this is that it costs more energy to send an evolved version than it does to send the regular version. So I'm going to tap on this little Totodile. You see how much energy that costs? And then I tap on the Alligator. So if you tap on this for Totodile, you see how it goes right under the N, like right at the end of the N in transporter. But if I tap on the Alligator, it goes like halfway through the end. So just very, very little. So it might be worth it if you have like a bunch of extra candies here. So Delphox, Alligator, and Greninja gonna be more than enough to send these three. So we're gonna send that shiny Delphox for Alligator Greninja. And then once you do that, it'll confirm one more time. And then you just press on transport. Now these Pokemon have officially been sent to Pokemon Home. Now, what we have to do, you can't go to your Switch just yet. You have to go back to Pokemon Home in your phone because you actually need to accept the transfer. Now, the neat part is you just have to tap to start and Pokemon Home will automatically kind of like sense or detect that you sent Pokemon from Pokemon Go here. As you can see, it'll just make a pop-up, give you a pop-up saying that one or more Pokemon have been transferred from Go. If you'd like to receive them, you just press on yes. It'll take you to this screen where you just go down to where it says Pokemon Go link and tap on receive. You transferred Pokemon. You're going to see it's the Feraligatr, Delphox, and Greninja. And all you have to do is receive the Pokemon. So now you receive the Pokemon from Pokemon Go. Now they are officially in your Pokemon Home storage. If I go to my storage, where is it at? Pokemon, here we go. You see they're right at the top there, you know, next to that Darumaka. And I actually need to clean this out a little bit. I actually already have a shiny Incineroar here that I sent from Pokemon Go 2 years ago. And then I actually have the shiny, I forgot I had these, the shiny Treasures of Ruin from when I played a little bit of Scarlet Violet. That's super cool. You guys can see, boom, I have these here now. Now you can officially put your phone away, put your phone down, because now we're going to make our way back to the Switch, or we're going to power up the Switch. If you haven't powered it up yet, you're going to boot up the Switch, and this is where the next part is going to begin. Of course, you already need to have Pokemon Home installed on your Switch as well. So boom, you're just going to open up Pokemon Home on here. So once you go to your boxes, you're going to go to your Pokemon Home box, because of course, if they're in your Pokemon Home box, and you're going to be sending them out from here. Do you see now they're all here? Now they are pretty low level. I'm pretty sure that when you transfer them into champions, they might be automatically above 50 if I remember that correctly. Now at this point, you're not actually gonna be able to do it just yet to go directly into champions because the game is not out yet, so they don't even have the option. But once the game is released, they're obviously gonna have the option to select Pokemon to send them to champions as visitors, what they're gonna call them. So I'm pretty sure it's gonna be here in the bottom right in the Pokemon Champions button. So right now, if I were to press on it, it's gonna say check a Nintendo account, and it's actually gonna kick me out for, I guess it says that they're going to be in maintenance. You see it says that the link to Pokemon Champions is currently undergoing maintenance. So this game does release later today. It is currently the nighttime as I'm recording this video on April 8th. It'll be out in the evening. So you should be able to tap on this and it's just going to be able to, super simple, right? The Pokemon already here. You see that they're already there. You see, like, as I already showed you, the Pokemon are right here. So once I'm able to actually send these into Pokemon Champions, all you have to do is put these three, send them there, get them in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send the regular ones. I'm actually going to connect ZA to home so I can send some Pokemon from ZA to home. And then, so because if you send a Froakie, Fennekin, Totodile from ZA, if you link, kind of like send that from ZA to champions, you'll get those 3 Mega Stones for free. But of course, I want to have the shiny version so that I can use their shinies if I ever do run a team with these 3, which we'll see how that goes. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, make sure you like and make sure you hit the subscribe button because I'm excited to start getting into VGC for the first time ever. I'm going to be a complete competitive noob. If you guys are interested in seeing me learn, if you are a noob as well and you want someone to relate to or need somebody to relate to and watch their videos also being an absolute noob, make sure you subscribe. And it's been Grizzly and I'm out. Peace.